Hey there, Vote Checker here. It's the 31st of October. We're running out of time. We got an election here in 6 days? And there's a few little unfinished business items I wanted to talk to you about. This is part 3 in our Board of Election bogus reporting. Tonight is the mystery of the 613,000 voters who don't have an ID card. Now we have to go back to the Wayback Machine to remember this. We need a little memory, but we're not going to give you the sound effect of that, because this story starts when the voter ID law was first passed in North Carolina back in 2013. The Washington Post reported about it, said voter ID battle. That was March of 2013. And even then, it's kind of hard to see it, but it says, oh, let's go. Here we go. March 2013, it said as many as 613,000 voters may not have state-issued driver's license or identification card. Their point being, that was 613 people who don't have a match at DMV. Well, good Lord, that's 613,000 people who are going to need a voter ID card that the state will have to pay for. And that way, this voter ID card will cost billions of dollars and the state can't afford it. Therefore, voter ID is a bad idea. That was their opening gambit in stopping voter ID in North Carolina. 613,000 people who didn't have a match with DMV. Every state, every time a state comes out with a voter ID law, the left they make a study up like this, and they run the headline, and they kind of bury the correction on it. Tonight, we're going to do the correction. Now, for starters, that number came from the State Board of Elections' own report. That report was so substantial, I'm going to click to a link to it right now that was from this article. Are you ready? Oh, yeah, never mind. Yeah, about that link. Yeah. It really, we just kind of, let's just forget that, because the study was so bad, the old reliable newspaper in Raleigh took down the link. The study was embarrassing. It was laughable. And we were laughing hard at it, making fun of them. We might have put something on the website, certainly in Twitter, Facebook. We were having a good time because it's bogus. This is totally bogus. And there's so many conclusions you can draw from that, none of which are that 613,000 people in North Carolina who are voting don't have an ID card. That's hysterical. It's there's another word for that I'm losing. Maybe some of you will put it in the comments. Histrionic, I can't even think of the word. Poor. Obviously, this is not scripted. Okay, so remember that number, 613,000 people. And what was that date? It was March of 2013. Okay, well, even in September of 2013, by then, a mere 6 months later, even the state had walked back that 613,000 number to, let's see, Channel 11 reported just over 300,000. And that date, good prep here. That date, September 13th, came to this. I'm going to read to you a little bit because this is getting serious now. We're getting closer to crunch time. Eric Holder, remember him? He was the head of the law enforcement division, the head of the Department of Justice back when Obama was president. Holder, he filed suit. He jumped in and piled in on North Carolina for their voter ID law, and even he had fallen for a very high number involved, over 300,000. The DMV records found that over 300,000 voters did not have a DMV issued ID card. Okay, what was that date again? I lost track of it. Sorry about that. We're talking September. Now we move forward to December of 2015. This is when the truth, as best we can find it in our world, what did Pilate say? What is truth? Well, the truth in this case was the testimony of the State Board of Elections director, Kim Strack, where she went to court and gave a deposition that we finally got a copy of recently, and I thought I would just share this with you because it's amazing. You see all these headlines, then you see what comes up after you said, I swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God, and all that stuff. And she did that and then came out with a deposition. And that over 300,000 was shrunk down to this. Now this number was the people that they could not match, that really could not match. The rest of them, they figured out who they were because they had maiden names. They did some work and figured out that other big number, that 600,000, they were people who had multiple registrations. They were people, there's a lot of those on the board, on the election rolls still, where there's people who are registered in 2 different places. We found that a couple of years ago. Somebody who'd been on for 26 years in Cumberland County and had never voted from there, yet she was on the roll. So, and then she was voting under her married name somewhere else. So that's 2 people with one ID from DMV. So there's going to be this kind of churn. Okay, so what we did, they had told the court, we got that number down to 254,000. That was in December. And then this is the way it worked. We got the deposition and looked through it, and that's the source if you want to look at this. We're not going to scan that deposition and put it up. It's 125 pages. But this briefing will be up, and I'll put these slides up eventually. Okay, oops, I didn't mean to do it this way, but here we go. We're going to build it. I was going to do a click build, but no. 254, there we start. 36,000 of them, they got rid of them because they were already coded as removed, or they had no valid address. So even those people with no valid address, or they were coded as removed, what are they doing on the voter roll? There's a lot of people who are coded removed that are still on the voter roll. That's just the way they manage it. In case you show up and vote, they go, oh, we had you removed, instead of just deleting your record. So you were on there, but you were coded as removed. So who cares you don't have an ID? You've been removed anyway. All right, so of that, that got them down to 218,000. And they actually spent the money to mail a packet to each of these 218,097 people who were still had a voter record, but no DMV record. And they had a valid address. These people had valid addresses. That's where we're at now. So they did the mailing, and 154,000 of them just didn't respond. By the way, the mailing had a returned self-addressed stamped envelope in it to the Board of Elections with a check form telling us, they would tell the voter, hey, you got trouble here with your ID, you need help, here's what the law says. They kind of laid it all out for them. 154, almost 155,000 of them just didn't respond. 42,000 were returned undeliverable by the post office. Now think about that. These had no valid address. 42,000 returned undeliverable by the post office. So the person wasn't there. The person was missing. The address no good. Okay, of that, 20,580 responded. Of that number, I mean, not of that, but that's what we have left. And of that number, it broke down to this. 18,729 said they already have some form of valid ID because the letter listed off the kinds of ID you need. And they said, hey, I got it. We're good. They didn't tell whether they had DMV, but that's what they did. And then get this. 633 needed help obtaining a valid ID. They said in the court report that when they published this thing in December of 2011, they said, to date, only we've serviced all of them except for 8 people. So they spent the money to find all these people and talk to them, and 8 were left. But think about that. Here's the bottom line. This is the chart they gave that said that, and I highlighted that number. Starts at 218,000, ends at 633. So this was their original claim with all the histrionics. I think that's the word. Just, oh my goodness, the world's ending. 613,000 voters don't have an ID card. Yeah, ooh, what happened? At the end of the day, there was the answer, 633 who actually needed an ID. And the state was able to get a free ID card for all but 8 of them as of this 2015 report. I dare say the other 8, they've probably already gotten them, or maybe they passed away. But this is the bottom line to it. This is a report that starts, and it was the basis. I left that slide out, but the Southern Poverty Law Center actually listed that report as part of their reason for their lawsuit that you're describing. Most of them are black, of course, and it goes without saying that most of them are minorities, most of them are marginalized people. Why? You prove otherwise. Here's what we would say otherwise. we would say these people, especially the ones that they couldn't reach, maybe they weren't real voters. Maybe they were fraudulent voters that were not even living in North Carolina, but were voting here and still are. Maybe that's what was going on. So there's two sides to that question, and we would argue that that's the other point to it. And my camera girl just walked away right when we were about done here. So that's about it here. It's the point to this is this bogus reporting. Don't believe all these numbers you see. When you peel them back, the truth can tell us another story. And we're not there yet, but we do know that very few actually needed an ID. Now the only question is, of all that 200,000, how many of them were illegal voters, not a resident of North Carolina, and they were illegally voting here? And that is a more serious question that we'll get to later. I'm Vote Checker, and I'm out of here. Have a great weekend.